Yes.
What was this one titled again?
Um, it's on the tip of my tongue.
It's like
I'll look it up as we
Breaking the
speak.
Fourth Wall is what it's called.
Yes.
Episode 7, Breaking the Fourth Wall,
Yes.
and that it does. So this episode is, first of all, if you've been watching along with WandaVision, you know that the main gimmick of the show is that it kind of has this little pastiche of sitcom family television going through the decades. I was kind of wondering what they would do for this, if it was going to maybe do like a Malcolm in the Middle type thing. But it seems with the opening credit sequence that they're doing a parody of The Office. So you have a little bit of Office, Curb Your
Modern
Enthusiasm,
Family.
Modern Family, yeah. The documentary style single camera setup,
Hmm.
which I thought that this parody and the last week's parody were probably two of the most effective ones, just because they didn't feel overdone. They didn't feel kind of just like stale and a little bit like, oh, well, we've seen 80s parody before, we've seen 60s parody before,
Hmm.
we've seen Stranger Things. But this one felt a bit fresher. It felt a bit less like they were handling it with tongs. They really went all out with it, which I thought was really entertaining. Overall, I found this episode definitely one of the more entertaining ones. Uh, I suppose let's not hold off on any twists just yet. Though
No, yeah, yeah.
for right now, I'll go twist free. The action stuff we see a bit. I think most more action stuff than we've seen before with this episode,
Sure.
especially with the sequence with Monica driving her truck through that force field. Maybe this is TV budget, like this is just a thing with like a TV budget, but the action kind of did feel a little bottled. It had that Wonder Woman 1984 effect, but I didn't really mind. They kept it. They didn't do too much of it. I will give special props to the scene where in the episode, Monica has to cross back over into Wanda's world, and the visuals when she's crossing over,
Awesome.
yeah, I think they're kind of trying to do like a 2001: A Space Odyssey thing there. I thought they were very nice, probably some of the best. Actually, you know what? I'll be bold. I would say this is probably the best visual sequence, just based on purely what I've seen, probably the coolest looking thing that the MCU has done.
Wow.
Yeah.
Bold takes this episode. I like it. Yeah,
Uh,
this
yeah.
I so if I were to rank the episodes, I wouldn't go in the exact order, but I will say I think it gets better each episode, if that makes any sense. I don't know if I'm contradicting myself there.
No, I think you've been pretty constant with that.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So, I mean, this episode, I haven't watched Modern Family, but that's what everyone seemed to say. I recognize the logo for the theme they did looked similar to it. We have Elizabeth Olsen talking right to the camera. We have those sitcom
Malcolm
elements.
yeah.
Yeah. Um, and I just want to say, I think Elizabeth Olsen is, I'm really glad we're getting to see her as the centerpiece of something because she really rocks it each episode. And, to be able to navigate, and all these actors too, to be able to navigate all those different eras, decades, styles of the show that they're taking on. I mean, obviously, when you have actors like, Catherine Hahn, she's been in sitcoms before, but for Elizabeth Olsen and Paul Bettany to really adapt to this, I think that's really something special that I enjoy seeing each week. I really like the style of this episode. Severe lack of Randall Park IMO, TikTok star Randall Park, if you've been keeping up with that, um, which I enjoy all of those ones, might I add. Jimmy Woo's the GOAT. uh, Paul Bettany's confessional sequences as Vision were, I don't know if they were the highlight of the episode for me, but I think I laughed out loud each time he did them.
Heard a lot of the that stuff with him and Kat Dennings when they're kind of.
Yeah.
I thought even though the exposition has that kind of like winky nudge nudge MCU self-awareness that I
Hmm.
normally don't like. I thought it was kind of funny.
Yeah,
I thought it was just kind of it was nice because it was in a small dose, a very
yeah,
small dose.
they were a very good pairing together. Maybe we'll see more of them, but as Vision kind of phased through the truck they were in and is on his way to somewhere, I guess we'll see next episode. Uh, but we can get into the spoilers, I think, now because this was the first episode, I think, where we really got a huge reveal. We've gotten some slight reveals in the past, but we've kind of over time started to realize Wanda's not really in control. She's losing control. She doesn't know how this all has happened. And it is revealed that who's been pulling the strings all along?
Is that
Agatha. Yes,
a
Agnes is Agatha.
yes, Agnes is Agatha Harkness?
Harkness, yes.
Harkness. I know that's a comic book villain.
Hmm.
I know that's from the comics. I kind of can't remember what the scope is. I don't know if she has a cool name outside of Agatha
I think,
Harkness.
yeah, I think that's just her name. I don't know if she has a nickname.
But she's revealed to be the one behind it all in a musical number, which is and here's the thing, that musical number made me, as someone who's kind of a bit of a curmudgeon on the first few episodes, they didn't really move me at all. This episode gave me something that I enjoyed. Again, my biggest problem with the show was just that the sitcom parody was a little toothless, didn't do anything interesting, and the action stuff also wasn't very interesting at all. There wasn't anything really to counter the kind of banality in the show's basic premise.
Yeah,
And I found that this episode definitely it gave you much more an interesting visual style, some cool looking scenes, which I enjoyed. It gave me a lot of jokes that I laughed at. And with this conclusion, it this is probably one of the first MCU things that really dives headfirst into pure camp, which I liked. That was pure camp cheese, which go all out, go further with that. These
yeah,
are superhero movies. Be campy. Be not, you don't have to do the little wink nudge self-aware. You can make it silly and commit to that silliness, which I think the last two episodes have really done. They've really given themselves over to silliness. They don't have to keep themselves in the kind of Whedon-y winking to the audience bubble.
yeah. I would agree, and I think I tweeted out earlier. I really like how with the songs they're creating. It's a Disney Plus show. I think they had some of the songwriters for Frozen even write some of these theme songs I've heard, but this was a really catchy, playful way to reveal something really sinister that's been going on. Because it is a big deal. Is I think Wanda's almost being controlled. If not, she's being used. We kind of saw her use her magic at the end of the episode, and she looked like she could take control of Wanda. And does that mean she's more powerful than her? Because Wanda's arguably the strongest Avenger we have. You could argue that it's Thor, Captain
It has
Marvel.
kind of like godlike powers, you could almost describe.
Yeah, I would argue it's Rocket the Raccoon, but um,
Oh, right. I thought it
but
was Squirrel Girl.
yeah, Squirrel Girl, sure. Um, I I really am interested in where this is going because this was a huge reveal, and we didn't see Wanda's kids, Billy and Tommy, at the end of the episode, and I think she could have potentially killed them. I mean, who's to say that she hasn't been doing something like this? There's been a big story out of the children in this hex, so
If they
I don't
kill the
know.
kid, I will be giving this show a 5 out of 5 stars on
I
Letterboxd.
know it's
The
dark.
audacity to kill a child in a movie always gives me at least 1 star. Always an extra point right there.
Yeah.
So
Yes. Go ahead. Yeah.
we should also maybe quickly mention Wanda kind of has her perhaps a sign of her being controlled is her kind of creeping. I'm starting to feel that this is meaningless. I don't see any
Yes.
point, which I thought. I thought it was nice. I thought that that was the drama in this episode didn't dull me the way that it has normally. It felt a bit more at place.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. And quickly I want to hit on, the commercial we saw, Nexus. The commercials every week are pretty funny, in my opinion. But I was reading Twitter, and Nexus is apparently a word relating to the multiverse in Marvel. So does that mean, now that we learned Agatha's really in control of all this, so it seems that she's using the multiverse at all? That's maybe how Evan Peters came into play. Um, and we
That
could
would
talk about Evan Peters too.
Spider-Man too. But that takes us into the next Spider-Man too, if it is the
Right,
multiverse.
right. And Doctor Strange 2, directed
Oh,
by Sam Raimi. Um,
by the goat Sam Raimi.
yeah. So I really am excited with where this is going. I think the next two episodes are going to be bonkers. Um, I think next week it's potential that we get a flashback episode. I wouldn't be shocked because they kind of set up like the third act, if you will, of this show with, okay, you have your villain, you have Vision, kind of trying to figure this all out. You have Wanda spiraling, and now we have Monica Rambeau, her character having powers. Now we have Evan Peters in that post-credit scene we saw, which is the first post-credit scene we've seen of this series. Marvel is notorious for those. Really interesting stuff, I think.
Yes, and we should also mention, speaking of Pietro, the after credit sequence,
Yes,
or mid credit sequence,
mid
technically,
credit. Yeah, yeah, whatever you want to call it.
mhm, where we see Monica snooping around, and she's
Yes,
caught by.
Snooper.
Of course, we forgot to mention after Monica goes through the little portal, and we get these nice 2001: A Space Odyssey visuals.
Hmm.
She comes out with magical powers,
Yes. Hmm.
and so that's perhaps means she'll be the new Captain Marvel as she does in the comics, I believe.
Maybe. Yeah. Who
Uh,
knows?
we have an after credit scene where Evan Peters catches her snooping around,
Yeah.
and
It's very Stranger Things in her basement.
oh yeah, very odd stuff going on down
Yeah.
there. I liked also how that happened, and then it cut to some nice upbeat music, which kind of reminded me of the ending of. It was like the end of Dawn of the Dead when like all this horrific stuff happens, and it goes the da 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 da.
Hmm.
I like that. I thought that was funny.
I know. Yeah.
That's my favorite like overused cliche in the movie is like
Sure.
something really heavy happens and then there's some light music gets played. That will
Done
never.
that in WandaVision a lot too.
Yeah. The
So.
ending of Hereditary too, that one.
Hmm.
Always love it. Always welcome to see it.
Yeah. So, really interesting stuff, I think, being set up here. I can't wait to see where it goes. This is a really good series. I don't think Falcon and Winter Soldier is going to be as crazy. I could be wrong, but with the less, supernatural elements in play there, um, I think this might be Marvel's winner. Maybe it stinks they're starting off with it, but I think this was at least a really great way to start off their next phase of movies, TV, whatever you want to call it.
I would definitely prefer. I think I said this in the first episode.
Hmm.
In the early on, I was kind of hoping that again they would kind of dive further into some of the weirder stuff. And while I guess they didn't go as weird as I thought, I do like with these ones, they went a bit more toothed and a bit more silly, and
Yeah.
which I like. I hope that they can keep that through. Hoping the goat Sam Raimi can bring some of his trademark
Hmm.
like wild, crazy, campy quality to it. I really hope they don't like clean him up for this
Yeah.
one. I hope this is a turn in the MCU to really start making some like, you're making goofy comic book movies. Make it weird or kind of creepy or kind of odd. While certainly WandaVision wasn't as, it obviously didn't really go into some surreal psychological horror. Of course it wouldn't, but it was more strange than what we've seen before in the MCU. So I do hope this trend continues. I hope it gets even stranger, even weirder. I hope this opens the door for directors and writers coming into the MCU to just be a go all out with their creativity, not to kind of feel a bit boxed in by
Hmm.
those kind of Disney standards that I feel
Sure.
like a lot of these movies have. They kind of have that polish on them. And this is the first one I've seen that kind of, at least slightly, chips a bit away at that. So hopefully
Yeah.
we'll see more, some
Going away
different.
from the more Marvel formula, I think, which is,
Yeah.
could think it's good, you could think it's bad. I personally, think they're making very strong choices, and I'm excited to see who Evan Peters is. If he's really the one from the X-Men universe, we don't know. Paul Bettany said the actor he really appreciated working with and wanted to work with his whole life still has not appeared in the show. So, I think you can place your bets on, is that Patrick Stewart? Is that Ian McKellen? I think him and Ian McKellen might have worked
Oh,
together already, though. But
I can't recall.
okay. But I think that's where a lot of the internet speculation is headed towards. So yeah, really exciting stuff for WandaVision. Um, as long as they have more Randall Park. And who's Hayward? I want to find out who he really is. What's his deal? Is he just a
Hmm,
jerk? I don't know.
I'll find that out. Maybe
I know.
I'm sure he's probably a comic book character. Maybe he's like some Silver Age guy who like appears kind of in the background in a bunch of 80s comics, like a lot of these guys are. So,
Some people think he's Ultron as a human, and I think we're too far into the show for that to be a big reveal they've been hiding.
oh,
It could be. I mean, that could be finale, and then we have like an hour and a half finale, and it's a, you know, huge thing with that. I think it would be a little much to squeeze that in with this week's reveal, but I'm excited to see where it goes. Any last thoughts before we move on from WandaVision?
uh, just that this probably was this one and the last one. Again, as the curmudgeon, I did enjoy these two episodes. I thought they were a good watch.
Hmm.
So you've been holding out on WandaVision, and you're fine with going through what is that, 5 episodes to get to them. I would say do it for episode 6 and 7.
Yeah,
That commercial was funny once again.
yeah, good commercials. I like it.